Hello, welcome to Helicopter Training Videos. This is the third video in a series looking at the Helicopter Private Pilot ACS changes. In this video we're going to look at the Preflight Procedures area of operation. So if you're new to the ACS and you haven't watched the previous videos, I highly recommend you go back and watch the video we did on the general ACS changes. It goes through the history, the goals, the task structure, the new coding system, what the required elements are, how the ACS document has been changed, what they've done with the special emphasis areas and ADM, as well as additional rating tables, tips, and more. Like I said earlier, this is the third in a series looking at the private helicopter ACS. So if you haven't already, check out part 1, which covers the big changes to the private pilot ACS, covering changes to auto rotation and max performance airspeeds, as well as the requirement to have wings level or rolled out by 300 feet AGL when you're doing auto rotations with turns, the new flight deck management task and its extra bonus fail, as well as the extra tasks in Area of Operations 5, and a full rundown on the tasks that have been renamed and reordered. Also, there's part 2, which covered the Area of Operation 1, which is pre-flight preparation, going through pilot qualifications, the airworthiness requirements, weather information, cross-country flight, national airspace system, performance limitations, operations systems, and human factors. The links will be in the description for both those videos. In this video, we're going to look at Area of Operation 2, Pre-Flight Procedures. So you can see here there are a few changes to the titles in terms of names, but we're going to dive deep into these tasks and go through the changes to the references, which will give you some new things to study perhaps, as well as the changes to the knowledge items, the skill items, and of course the all-new risk management elements. All of these tasks are required under this Area of Operation. As we go through all this, if you see anything else that we're missing, please let us know in the comments. Okay, let's get started with Task A, which used to be Pre-Flight Inspection, is now named Pre-Flight Assessment. The reason for that is it's more than just a physical aircraft pre-flight. First of all, let's have a look at the references. You can see there's a new reference added, AC 9132. This is Safety in and Around Helicopters. Great resource. I'm not sure it fits so well here with any of the elements within this task. I think it would be better for flight deck management, which has some passenger briefing elements. Also, you can see there another reference is the Handbook 8083-2, which is the Risk Management Handbook. Because all of the new ACS tasks have a risk management element to them, all of these tasks, as far as I can see, are going to have that reference. We also have 8083-25, which is the PHAK, Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. There's a few sections here that are relevant. Chapter 9 has a little bit on pre-flight and airworthiness. Chapter 2 has some I'm Safe and PAVE checklist elements. Also, Chapter 17 has some I'm Safe related information. And the Helicopter Flying Handbook Chapter 8 is also a good resource. Under the knowledge section, you can see there's a new pilot self-assessment. That's the I'm Safe checklist. Illness, medication, stress, alcohol, fatigue, eating, emotion, and everything else. Then you can see most of the airworthiness condition stuff hasn't really changed. Under the associated regulations, I think some of this has already been covered in the Area of Operation 1 airworthiness task, but we're looking at things like 91.7 airworthiness, which is the no person may operate a civil aircraft unless it's in an airworthy condition. 91.205 equipment requirements. 91.213 how to deal with inoperative instruments and equipment, as well as a good reference would probably be things like the POH RFM required equipment list and AC 9167, which is that cancelled AC on how to deal with inoperative equipment, which we covered in the last video. Also, a new element here is the environmental factors, including weather, terrain, route selection, and obstacles. Probably a lot of this is covered in the cross-country task, to be honest, but all of these sound like things that you would cover in a flight risk analysis tool. So if you have one of those at the flight school, I highly recommend you fill one of those out, print it out, and bring that to your check ride, as it's going to cover a lot of this, a lot of these areas that we're talking about right now. Under the new risk management section, there's the PAVE areas, so that's pilot, aircraft, environment, and external pressures. That, again, a lot of this would cross over with cross-country and also with a flight risk assessment tool if you have one, some sort of method of going through all the areas and assessing risks. The one at the bottom there, though, is kind of hard to pin down. It says aviation security concerns. I could not find any reference to those words in any of the references listed, so I was searching for security. I think you're very best to look at something like the AOPA's TSA Security Awareness Training course to give you some scenarios to consider. And then under skills, you can see there it talks about verifying that the helicopter is in condition for safe flight and conforms to its type certificate. So the FAA approves an aircraft's type design by the manufacturer, and when the aircraft's built, is issued an airworthiness certificate plus any additional supplemental type certificates for after factory equipment changes. And then you must complete required maintenance inspections, annuals, and maybe 100 hours, and any airworthiness directives to be compliant and to maintain the status of conforming to that type certificate. So really what this is all about is checking the paperwork, making sure the aircraft has fulfilled all those required ADs and maintenance requirements, etc. So make sure you know how to read a maintenance warning report and the logbooks before the check ride. I think it should be an integral part of your training, not just last minute prep for the check ride. You can also see there, perform self-assessment. That's that I'm safe checklist again. This is almost identical to a task in the human factors task of the previous area of operation. You can see there the skill says perform self-assessment. And the last you can see, continue to assess the environment for safe flight. So that's kind of assumed. You're going to be making decisions based on changing weather conditions during the flight. If the conditions aren't safe or good for a check ride, you will call for a discontinuance. So here we have flight deck management, which used to be cockpit management. We talked a little bit about this in part 1 of this video series, the big changes to private pilot. You can see here there's some new references. Those references are the Risk Management Handbook, which has multiple chapters that apply to this. The PHAC, Chapter 2 would be applicable here, as well as the Helicopter Flying Handbook, Chapter 8. Some other references you might want to look at if you're flying Robinson products. The Robinson POH has a safety notice number 30, which is loose objects can be fatal. Also missing here is AC 9132, which is the safety in and around helicopters. That was attached to that was listed as a reference in the previous task. I think it more applies to this one really. As we covered in that big changes to private pilot, this flight deck management task, which is also in the commercial and the CFI ACS, it has a reference to Appendix 2, Safety of Flight. And what that's basically saying is if you fail a task other than this task due to ADM or SRM, CRM issues, then you get this task as an additional fail, like a bonus fail. In the knowledge changes, we can see there's use of appropriate checklists. That was once a special emphasis item. It's now been spread throughout all of the relevant tasks. And you can also see the requirement for current and appropriate navigation data. What is the FAA policy for carrying current charts? So what it says here is 91-103, which is pre-flight action, states that each pilot in command shall, before beginning a flight, become familiar with all available information concerning that flight. And although the regulation doesn't specifically require it, you should always carry current charts with you to kind of meet that requirement. Expired charts may not show frequency changes or newly constructed obstructions, both of which, when unknown, could be a hazard and would mean you were not complying with 91-103. Under the new risk management section, you can see that the applicant's going to identify, assess, and mitigate risks associated with systems or equipment, including automation and portable electronic devices. So that's going to be your avionics. Maybe you've got glass cockpit, setting that up correctly. You've also got portable electronic devices, which is going to be your iPad with ForeFlight, etc. How to deal with the risks of inoperative equipment and passenger distractions. And then under skills, you can see there is an element that talks about conducting an appropriate passenger briefing. A lot of those things are not really new, except it talks about passenger conduct. So I think what we're talking about here is, giving the briefing about sterile cockpit, don't touch controls, don't grab the rotor brake, etc.
No, that will kill us.
The link for that video is in the description below. And then we also have properly program and manage helicopter automation as applicable. I think that again is setting up your avionics correctly. Maybe you've got a PFD and MFD, making sure that's set correctly. And appropriately manage risks by utilizing ADM, aeronautical decision making, including SRM and CRM, single pilot resource management and crew resource management. And that could be things like using the evaluator as a resource as if they were a passenger. So maybe you might brief them on doing certain things or being your eyes for you and asking you to clear to the left if you can't see, if they're blocking your view, making sure that they understand that they should speak up if they see a collision hazard in flight, etc. And here we can see task C, which became Powerplant starting and rotor engagement instead of engine starting and rotor engagement, probably to future-proof the different types of propulsion. So we may go from engine to motor, etc. In the references, you can see it pulled out a bunch of references and added some new ones. So let's have a look at some of these ones here. AC 9113, that's cold weather operations of aircraft. And that was cancelled and incorporated into some other ACs, including 9174, Pilot Guide to Icing Conditions, as well as 0045, which was Weather Services, which has now also been cancelled, and that content's been pushed into the new FAA Weather Handbook. Strangely, though, neither of those two, the Weather Handbook or the Pilot Guide to Icing, are referenced as new references to look at, so I recommend checking both of those out anyway. And AC 9113, although it is cancelled, I still think that's a good reference to read because I can't find any direct replacement covering some of the content. For example, cold weather engine starts, pre-flight items in cold weather, and survival gear, etc. So worth checking that out. Also removed AC 9142, which was the hazards of propellers and helicopter blades. That's been cancelled. That content's really in the Helicopter Flying Handbook Chapter 8. And also removed AC 9155, which was electrical system failures following hard engine starts. I'm not sure why they took that out. It hasn't been cancelled, and I don't see that content anywhere else. And then we added the usual Risk Management Handbook 83-2 and the PHAC 83-25. Check out, again, Helicopter Flying Handbook Chapter 8 for some more content that's relevant here. Under the knowledge section, you can see there's a couple of new areas here. Limitations associated with starting and conditions leading to and procedures for aborted starts. And those would be for things like oil pressure coming up within a certain amount of seconds and blades turning in X amount of seconds. Turbine helicopters, it will be exhaust temperatures, etc. And then under the new risk management section, we have a few areas talking about mitigating risks associated with rotor engagement, use of external power units, limitations during starting. Under the skills, you can see a couple of new ones here. It talks about position the aircraft properly considering wind. So that'd be things like blade sailing with strong crosswinds, or engine exhaust position for turbine start to avoid a hot start, as well as flight control frictions if required. Probably a checklist item to make sure those are either set or not set depending on where you are in the checklist. And then same with the engage and manage the rotor system as appropriate. It's really just following the checklist. And finally, we have Task D, before takeoff checks. Not really much changed at all here. First of all, we can look at the references. They've added, again, the Risk Management Handbook and the PHAC. Check out the Helicopter Flying Handbook Chapter 9, has some relevant content here. Under the knowledge section, again, not much change. There is a piece about configuring the helicopter as recommended by the manufacturer. I'm not really 100% sure what that's referring to. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. I'm thinking perhaps, use of carb heat if the conditions are requiring it, or maybe use of lights. I'm not really sure. Under the new risk management section, we're talking about now, assessing and mitigating risks associated with division of attention while conducting before takeoff checks. So making sure we're still on the ground or in a stabilized hover and not spending too much time looking in, making sure we're still looking out and keeping the aircraft under control. Unexpected or unclear clearances from ATC. That's kind of similar to Section 7 on the old PTS, which was avoid runway incursions, ensures no conflict with traffic prior to takeoff, etc. Under the skill section, again, a lot of it's already really covered in the PTS as it was. There is a little bit that talks about maintaining the power plant and main rotor RPM within normal limits. So it's the usual pre-takeoff checks, ensuring that your RPMs are at flight speeds before you try to pick up. Okay, that's all for the Private Pilot Helicopter ACS Area of Operation 2 Preflight Procedures. The next video will continue moving through the Private ACS and we'll cover Area of Operation 3, which is Airport and Heliport Operations. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can find the links in the video description or on the Helicopter Training Videos website, helicoptertrainingvideos.com. And in those links, you can check out the full Helicopter ACS playlist, which will be covering changes in commercial, instrument, and the CFI ACS, as well as the previous videos on the Private Pilot ACS. Also in those links are Amazon affiliate links to paper copies of the ACS if you want to support Helicopter Training Videos by using those links at no extra cost to you. For more videos on the Helicopter ACS, check out our full Helicopter ACS playlist. For other helicopter training videos, check out our Helicopter Maneuvers Guide, or perhaps you want to follow along with a student in the cockpit from day one to check ride with our full flight lesson series. And if you haven't already, please click subscribe to get all the latest videos and help promote the channel. And finally, for more information on helicopter training videos, including articles, resources, quizzes and more, and learn how you can support this volunteer project, check out our website, helicoptertrainingvideos.com. Thanks for watching.